Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Malaika, and currently I'm serving as Manager Global HR Alliances at HR Metrics. And a very warm welcome to today's webinar, where we will be discussing a very important topic on how the first global standard, which is ISO 30414 on human capital disclosure, drives strategy and sustainable value creation through bottom line impact. This is a global webinar with representation from every continent, with majority of participants joining from Pakistan, Georgia, Singapore, China, Nigeria, and other regions across the world. Okay, so today's session is the part of Human Capital Disclosure Allies Initiative, which is basically a global network of ISO 30414 certified professionals across United States, Europe, Asia, Africa, Middle East. And the purpose of this initiative is to provide integrated human capital solutions for local and multinational organizations. We are very fortunate to have a galaxy of speakers representing key regions. Almost all of these luminaries are part of the HCD initiative and are leading advocates on ISO 30414. And I must mention that all these speakers that you're seeing on your screens, they serve as a driving force behind human capital analytics in their respective region. So here is the program agenda, and I feel like our conversation is going to be very diverse, as all of these speakers, they bring real hands-on experience, and we hope that there will be strong and meaningful takeaways for everyone from this session. So yeah. And before we move forward, I would like to briefly introduce you about our company, HR Metrics. It was created in 2012, and HR Metrics is a consulting and advisory firm. It specializes in sustainable people analytics, global HR standards, professional competencies, and inclusion strategies. And our purpose is basically to empower the organizations to build capabilities so they can create inclusive cultures, enhance their HR effectiveness, and drive meaningful societal impact. So to carry forward this mission, we introduced 3 global standards in Asia. And I'm just so proud to mention that we have positioned ourselves as pioneers in this field. And these standards, as visible on your screens, include Human Capital Analytics Standard, from HR Competency Standard, and then Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Standard. And through these initiatives, we are developing professionals with the knowledge, skills, and the relevant practical capabilities that help them to drive and lead the impact in these critical areas. And moreover, I want to mention that we have the privilege of certifying the highest number of ISO 30414 professionals around the globe, and mainly from Japan. So with this, I would like Zahid Mubarak to take over the session. Zahid is the CEO of HR Metrics, and he also has the honor of being the only representative from Asia to serve on ISO technical committee mandated to develop HR standards. And he has played a very active role in the development of ISO 30414. And the committee itself has developed around 32 standards till now. And at the national level, Zahid is also the member of ESG task force. So over to you, Zahid.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Malaika, for the wonderful start. I hope you can see my screen. So
Yes.
once I'm grateful to each one of you for you sparing your time. The speakers were able to be with us together for this important mission. And I hope we have useful conversation. It's a dialogue, basically. While we move forward, I think it's important to position ourselves, determine our true north, and see, are we heading in the right direction? Our goal is sustainability, and this all is happening under the umbrella of the sustainability. And usually, what I see when I look at the various things happening in the market, either as a member of the ESG task force, or I had the honor of working with almost a dozen international standards, national standard bodies in the US, in the UK, Germany, France, Netherlands, Sweden, Netherlands, Australia, Singapore, etc. One thing where I feel is that probably there's a need for reorientation. That's in a way that many people think that ESG starts with the environment. So it's all about the environment. And we have to be conscious of the fact that this is not the reality. If you look at the wonderfully performing organization around the world, yeah, like you name it, IKEA, which is environmentally conscious, which exceeds customer expectation. It's not the environment driving the IKEA, it's the people driving the organization. At the same time, if you look at the historical uh, situation like the Lehman Brothers, which crumbled, and people say it was a collapse of the corporate governance. I call it it's the collapse of the human governance. Corporate is a legal entity. It's the human being who basically makes or breaks the organization. So while we say that customer is the king, or you call it the queen, who makes the king or the queen is the people. And the word people, which is clubbed under the name of the social, primarily it falls into the four spectrums. Various standards, whether it's the European Sustainability Reporting Standards, or various regulatory mechanisms, or international standards boards, they categorize the social aspect into the four main threads. The internal workforce, which is your own regular employees, the external workforce, people who are part of the value chain, the community that we serve, and the customer, who are the buyer of the product and the services. So in today's conversation, our focus is on the internal workforce, and that is very beautifully defined, not only defined, but clearly articulated in a very granular form, the 11 different areas of the human capital management, which is basically the internal workforce, containing 69 metrics, out of which at least 14 vital metrics, which regardless of the size structure of the organization, is everyone is recommended to use. And we are promoting this thing worldwide. And the purpose of creating this alliance was that we sing it like a choir. We speak the same language. We talk about the same standards. And the purpose of this harmonization between the different regions of the country is that we should be able to, serve the world in a way that there's a better outreach and a better application of these standards across the world. So while we are not going into the more details of this configuration of the standards, because this is not a training, it's important to be aware of the fact that every component of the internal workforce is included in the standard, which is ISO 30414 2025 version. The earlier version, which was published in 2018, has been replaced by this new standard. And this standard takes care of the model which is created by the guru, the famous guru in the HR, Dave Ulrich, who looks at the HR as a value driver, rising from the administrative expert to the functional expert to the strategic partner, working in alliance with the business partner, and now leading the business in a way that creating values for the stakeholders. And this standard effectively takes care of the new concept, which is a departure from the traditional concept of the shareholder capitalism and moving to the new concept of the stakeholder capitalism, where the HR is not just bound to take care of the internal matters, it's accountable to many important stakeholders. The first and the foremost stakeholder is your investor, who spends hard-earned money and who expects a strong value creation in terms of the difference that is created by the HR in the form of the goodwill. The goodwill is not an intangible aspect. That's the clear differentiation or the difference between the book value and actual value of the firm. So that is what the expectation of the investors. The board directors, they look toward the HR in terms of business continuity and helping in the leadership development, succession management. The employees who want to be looked after, both from the physical aspects, from the well-being aspects, from the growth aspects. The senior management who expect HR to empower them with the tools that can make them successful at their jobs. The customers who want a better experience, and the communities who want a citizenship behavior from the organizations. So who is going to create it? That's the role of the HR, and that's the concept of the stakeholder capitalism. But we have to be conscious of the fact that this is not a new concept. The terminology is different, the terminology is new, but this concept was originally given by the father of the analytics, which is called Jack Fizzens, in 1969, where he mentioned in his book, ROI of the Human Capital, with certain real life examples from the industry. This book is publicly available, that there are three components of the HR performance: efficiency, effectiveness, and the outcome. So while there is a mechanism to do some of the things at the rudimentary level, like measuring the cost, there's a need to look at the quality aspect and, most importantly, the outcomes, because you are using the hard-earned money of the shareholders, your investors or the donors, and there's a need for accountability on that front. It's not just a narrative. ROI is not just a narrative, a lip service. It's a actual monetization of the HR in a way that you position yourself, your department, your function, and shift the gear from being a cost to the profit center. How? In a simple term, the one main function, for example, in the HR is to acquire the talent. Now, there are many lenses through which you can look at the talent. One of the lenses is the cost. And traditionally, it is seen as a cost center. For example, you have certain cost of acquiring the talent. But is it enough to satisfy the stakeholders? For example, the investors, why they would incur the cost? They're interested in the return on the investment. That is what is called the monetization. And this ROI is not something illusionary, because when you hire somebody, there's an outflow of the money in the form of the expense. There's certain inflow in the form of the new business, in the form of the new patents, the new products that you create, or the process basically that you reform to serve your end customers. And there's a mechanism, the standards are there, where you can assign a tag, the financial value to the value creation cycle, and calculate the results, which you call the benefits. And when you compare the cost with the benefit by using a financial formula, you have a mechanism, you can calculate the ROI. And you can use this ROI not only to position yourself as a profit center, but also to set your target as a profit center. Like the sales, the operation, you aim for the profitability. You do not just show the total number of the working hours or to the total cost incurred, but what you're going to make out of it. So that's the narrative that we are promoting right from the outset. On the same philosophy, we have created this company. And as Malaika has rightly said, with the help of our strong allies, strong partnership, we've been able to eliminate this word with the highest concentration of the three human capital disclosure qualified people. And predominantly, I would like to extend my thanks to Shunsuke Hosaka for playing a pivotal and the activist role in Japan in terms of driving the market, creating change at the organization level, as well as the individual level. So we are very excited to listen to you, the stories, the practical, the hands-on experience, what is happening in the different parts of the world. You know it better. So without taking any further time, I would like to request Shunsuke Hosaka. As I already mentioned, he is the founder and the CEO of HC Produce and the official representative of Japan in the ISO Geneva. And he has been very generous in hosting the ISO TC 260 meeting 2 years ago. We truly enjoyed, Shunsuke, your hospitality. Over to you, and we would like to hear your thoughts on the subject. Thank you.
Thank you, Zahid. for your kind introduction. Let me share my screen. Can you see this? Okay, thank you, Zahid and HR Metrics for giving me this opportunity. Today, I'd like to talk about human capital management and ISO 3014 in Japan. So, as Zahid has kindly introduced me, I'm CEO of a consulting firm called HC Produce in Japan, and I serve as a TC260 Mira Committee Secretariat in Japan. And I have certified 24 organization as of today and trained over 1,000 individual as a professional for ISO 3014. So as of today, there are an increasing number of ISO 314 certified organizations. And starting from 2021 in Germany, there are now 31 companies certified globally. And you can see their human capital reports because they have disclosed their human capital information in these annual report or human capital report or integrated report. So please take a look at these reports. So what's happening in Japan? As you've seen this, 23 of 31 companies are Japanese companies. And recently we have certified three organizations, Suntory, Musashino, and Mitsubishi Food Wholesaler. Maybe you know Jim Beam, a US company which is now owned by Suntory. And also, as I mentioned, we have over 1,000 ISO 31 for professionals. Over this 5 years, we have held quarterly basis a training program for ISO 3014. And most of the participants are consultants or HR people from organizations. Some of professional belongs to these companies which do the consulting part, and we have partnership with these companies for more than 40 organizations. And we estimate that there are around 500 or 600 Japanese organizations which have started to introduce ISO 3414 or started to aim for organizational certification. So there are increasing number of organizations starting to utilize this global standard. So why is this happening in Japan? And I think there are three reasons for this. And the first one is that traditionally, Japanese companies, uh, we have a culture of growing business by investing into people. As you know, Panasonic, this man, Konosuke Matsushita, is the founder of Panasonic. And he often said, business is people. And I think this is said in many countries. But in Japan, we really do this. and we had done this for many years. So we have a culture of growing business organization by growing people. The second reason is that human capital reporting has become mandatory in Japan. For this few years, the Japanese government has started to have a policy for investing into people and reporting that in a yearly report. Especially in year 2023, the FSA in Japan announced a new rule, and it has become mandatory for public companies to report human capital in their security report. And for this year, the Ministry of Economy and Trade and Industry has started to revise this human capital management consortium activity. And the Japanese Corporate Governance Code is also going to be revised this year. So we have a kind of government commitment for this activity for reporting human capital. The third reason is that a kind of this new movement for asking organization to report human capital, but companies don't know what to do. So they are starting to use ISO 3414 because it tells them what to do and how to do that. As Zahid mentioned, uh, there are 69 metrics and there are formulae in them, so they know what to do and how to do that. So these are the big three reasons behind the increase of number of companies that has been certified against ISO 3414. Now, at the end, I'd like to touch on how we marketed this standard in Japan. And we didn't do it by ourselves. We let our allies do the marketing and profit from this standard. There are three steps for ISO 3414 organizational certification. First, we do the fit and gap analysis, and then there's a consulting phase to fill the gap. And then at the end, there's a audit and certification. And we do this audit and certification, but due to the ISO rules, when we do the audit and certification, we can't do the consulting at the same times. So we have these allies do the consulting part. As I mentioned, there are around 40 to 50 partners which has the professional ISO certified people. So they do the consulting and we do the audit, and they have their own clients. So they sell ISO 3414 on behalf of us. So in this way, we have spread ISO 3414 in the Japanese market, and that is the reason that many companies have been certified. So the last part is how we write human capital reports. So I think there's 5 points to remember. There's no right answer for writing a human capital report. And ISO 3414 does not specify the um, method for reporting. So it could be any report, like a human capital report or ESG report. And the important thing is to think of how you want to tell the message and how you want to communicate. So it could be investors or it could be your customers. And in Japan, many companies are now targeting job seekers because we are facing a lack of labor. Data is critical, but narrative explanation is also important. Without explanation, we don't understand the meaning of the number. So it's important to show the link between business strategy and the HR strategy. And the last part is report original metrics specific to your business together with ISO metrics. There are 69 metrics, universal, but it doesn't mean that you can't report other metrics. So it's also important to report your own metrics. Okay, so this is my part of presentation. Thank you, Zahid. Back to you.
Excellent. It's always very encouraging to see the new developments and while you're expanding the market. Uh, mm, we are open to any question, any comment by anyone who wants to ask something. I also have a question I would like to ask subsequently, unless somebody does not have it.
Uh,
Yes,
Question.
John. I would suggest whosoever speaks. I know most of the people, but for the sake of understanding, please say your name, the country you are representing. So, John, over to you. You
Yeah, name is Juan from the Philippines, but currently in the Middle East. My question is about companies in Japan. Does it have to be publicly listed to conform with the ISO 30414? Is the mandate only limited to publicly listed or for large and multinational organizations operating in Japan, but the headquarters is outside Japan? Do they have to comply as well?
Thank you, Juan, for the question. It's mandatory for listed public companies in Japan. So there are around 4,000 companies today, and they have to report. But the organizations we have certified are not only public companies or big companies. There are companies, big companies, but not listed, not public, and there are also small to mid-size companies, and they are aiming for certification because, as I mentioned, they want to hire good people, so they are showing that they are doing good in human resource management.
Yeah, sorry, let me rephrase my question.
Mhm.
Is human capital reporting mandatory for international companies operating in Japan?
If they are listed, if they are public, yes.
Only if it is listed. But if it is not
Mhm.
listed and the company is a large global multinational company, they're not required to file human capital report,
That's right.
right? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
super. So, Shunsuke, while we started the just journey together a long time back, and by now, I think most of the companies have completed the first cycle. And important part of this whole exercise is to connect the dots between the HR strategy and the organization strategy. Do you see the evidence in some form in the company that they've used the 30414 as a first version and how they're responding to the renewal cycle? Is there an appetite? Is there any assessment, formal or informal, or any feedback?
Do you mean those who have
Impact. I'm talking in terms of the impact on the organization
oh,
which are
impact? Yes. We hear about them, about the impact, and we understand that it has improved their HR management, and it has improved attracting people from outside the company, and they have succeeded in communicating with their stakeholders. But we haven't heard yet about the correlation between human capital investment and their performance. I mean, um, financial performance. And I think it needs more time to see the correlationship between human capital and their financial uh, output.
super. Thank you. Wonderful dialogue. Wish to have more conversation, but in the interest of the time, we would
Yeah.
like to now, move to the next speaker. Grateful to you for the useful perspective and giving us the latest view of your market on the 30414.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so with this, we move to our next speaker. Again, our strong ally, our alumni, Chian Ping Tham, very popular HR leader in Singapore and a consultant, Just HR Private Limited. So over to you, Tham. Looking forward to hear your insight at how you've been able to, stir the market and anything you would like to share.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thanks, Dahid. Thanks everyone for being here. And I see some familiar faces from where I am. So welcome and thanks for accepting the invite to join this. Contrary to the rest who are on the team, right? For us in Singapore, we just started the journey. And when I say we just started, it's almost probably 2.5, 3 years ago. And it all started based on a conversation that we were having with a client of ours, who were lamenting that this whole thing about HR analytics, especially in the post-COVID world, was being upended, right? Because if some of us could still remember, right, before the world before COVID and after COVID was very different. It's almost like if you watch those apocalypse shows like Walking Dead or The Last of Us, COVID seems to be the monument day, right? And the world kind of changed. And of course, not to mention that now we have AI as well, right? So the kind of change, the pace of change has also doubled in that sense. My value in this conversation is to share the challenges and the difficulties that we have in Singapore. And I've been very honest with Zahid about this as well. Contrary to what is happening in Japan, in Singapore, we don't have that number, far from it. Right now, we only have about five individuals who are certified, and we've been trying to reach out. Right, so our way of doing it is more grassroots style in reaching out to HR practitioners and professionals through the training, HR training that we conduct. What I also like to do is to also hear from some of you, right? You might have come on this Zoom, to first of all find out more about the ISO 30414, which I can assure you will learn a lot of it after today's session. Some of you may already know about this standard, and you yourself might have tried to promote or to apply or to get, your HR counterparts or, colleagues, right, to also embrace and to apply. And you may have met with some difficulties. So if I can, invite you to indulge in what I'm hoping that you can do, right, is if I can ask you to go to the chat to maybe write down what are some of the challenges that you might be facing or you think you might be facing, right, in adopting the ISO 30414 standards in your company if you are in-house or with your client if you are currently doing consulting. Now, what are some of the challenges that you are already facing or you think you'll be facing? Right, if I can invite you to write it down in the chat.
Thank you. Thank you. I think you've been able to catalyze the market, at least a couple of people, and they can play a more pivotal role in terms of leveraging the value of 30414. Is there anything you wish to say further?
Yeah, no, sorry. I was just hoping that I can get some responses from the audience to share some of their thoughts around challenges, right, in applying and using the ISO 304. Oh, we have someone who has put up their hand. Yeah, hi.
So
I think that
anyone from the
I
audience would
think
like.
the chat is disabled. Sorry, I just wanted to tell you that.
Yeah, please go ahead.
I think the chat function is disabled, just in case you're expecting people to respond.
Oh, the chat function is disabled. Oh, so sorry. Oh, okay. So we can't use the chat, is it? Okay. Yeah, I think we can't use the chat. Zahid, can you check on your end? Are we able to use the chat?
Chat is enabled, but I don't see anything in the chat box.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think some of you have started to put message. I think the chat function is usable.
Yeah, data. She said that.
Okay. All right.
Data.
Thanks, John. Data gathering is cumbersome. I need to get data for the last 3 years. Okay. Certainly, in order to be accredited and certified, you need to show trend that you have been doing so. And that probably will require, that number of years to do so. How about, let's say, in terms of, you wanting to advocate and to promote and to suggest to, clients or even internal stakeholders, to be adhering to the standards or to follow the standards? What would be some of the challenges that you think you might face, all right, when doing so?
So, if I may add, contribute to your question, I think this is a challenge, but to me, it's a lower end challenge. The bigger challenge is basically to position 30414 as a true value added component in the organization strategy. I could figure out that it's maybe little easy to compute the metrics, but to draw the insight and how they help the decision making, that's a science. That's what I have experienced. Until unless we do not achieve mastery over there, just positioning the metrics would not be helpful. What do you say?
Yeah. So I was alluding to that as well. So what we started off with was to talk about, how robust this standard would be because it comes from ISO. But little do we know that actually ISO kind of have, at least in Singapore, right, it has gone out of favor in that sense. ISO used to be the go-to standard some years ago. So many companies in Singapore has that quality assurance. I think it's 9001 or 9002 standards, but that has kind of gone on for a while. And when we try to engage client by using ISO as the door opener, it didn't work too well because it gives people the notion that it's very cumbersome, like what John you're mentioning. Recently, I had a conversation with a group of learners, and just want to share with everyone. One of the things that was brought up during the conversation, right, was that actually ISO 3014 would be very useful in time of audit, right? When you are when your HR operations or your HR department is being audited as part of a wider company audit, right? Which some of us have gone through before or is expecting to go through because of internal policy. The ISO 3044 could come in very handy in sharing a certain standard or certain processes that you can put in place to monitor, right, the development of your HR processes and operation. And because it comes from ISO, and ISO, as we know, is still a very well-respected standard-based organization. So using audit as a door opener, right, and being able to show accountability, all right, and also using data to justify some of the existing processes or maybe even new processes or new initiative that you are proposing from the audit standpoint could be a very useful way of doing it. And that's something that I learned recently from a group of participants that I was part of when we were talking about, I was introducing the concept of ISO 3044. I think a couple of you are here, right, who were in that class, and were involved in that very short conversation that we had. So the lessons that I can share from Singapore is that we have learned that, you know, in order to engage with stakeholders, we have to really go more specific into the matrices, right? To look at what matrices could be useful, what are some of the matrices that could help company in the HR function, right? To work with the businesses to monitor some of the ongoing initiatives and programs, or even as we roll out to the overall company strategy, right? What are some of the gaps that might still exist, and in a more positive perspective, right, is what are some of the returns of investment, right? Has there been any significant changes in some of the areas that the company or the HR department has invested in together with the business, and how this has probably brought in some benefits based on some of the matrices. For those of you who are new to the standards, right, if you have the opportunity to look into the document, the standard document, you will realize actually some of the matrices are pretty, I would say, if I can use this word loosely, right, pretty strategic. Like, for example, looking at the leadership development and the succession pipeline of the organization, or the bench strength. Now, these are words that we kind of throw around, right, when we engage with senior leaders. But when you go right down to looking at how you actually measure it and how you actually track it, the ISO, the standards that are being captured in the document, right, actually do help to give us that grounding, right? To not just throw some of these words like bench strength, pipeline loosely, but exactly what are we looking at and what are we measuring now. So I don't have a lot of very successful stories to share. If you see the challenges that we are facing in Singapore as similar to yours, and there are opportunities that we can collaborate, I do welcome you to reach out. Right, it's still a journey for us in discovering, how can we better position the standards. But we are seeing some positive, responses, right? And we are doing a lot of the ground up initiative and activities, especially through training and through outreach events and community of practices to talk about the standards. And we are still hoping that one day we'll be able to get one of our large local company, to want to adopt this standard, and we could have our first success story. Yeah. So over back to you, Zahid and the team.
Thank you so much. I know the change takes a lot of time to happen, and we are grateful to you for playing a pioneer role in your country and the region. And with this, I would like to move to the next speaker, which is John Fisher. Thank you, John, for being together. John is the global head of the workforce management and HCI DWS group. And to the best of my knowledge, DWS has the honor of being the only company on the planet, DWS, I would say asset management, the first company on the planet being certified on the ISO 30414. So John, over to you, and looking forward to hear your thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you see my screen? I assume you can. So yeah, you can't. It says I'm screen sharing. Is it not working?
I can see.
You can see it? Okay, good. Hopefully it's just timing. Yeah, we just wanted to, or I just wanted to share our journey.
Just a moment. My colleague, Sadia Malaika, can you give rights to the colleague of John?
Okay.
It should be. It says it's sharing. Can you not?
We can see his screen, sir.
You
It's
can see my
visible.
screen.
Yeah,
Yes.
we
Okay.
can.
Good. All right. Well, hopefully the majority of you can. And yes, I mean, I just wanted to explain our journey. So as was just said, and as we can see on the slide here, and I think it's one of the earlier presentations, we were one of the first, if not the first, to be certified as ISO compliant. But before that, I mean, this is really a story of 3 acts. So, and I'm being very simplistic here, but allow me to have that. So pre that certification, so pre-2021, there was a very small HR function, HRMI function. The metrics were very two-dimensional, FTE or headcount by country, by division, some gender reporting. But it was largely untrusted. There were lots of shadow functions in our subdivisions. And it was, we were struggling to get that credibility. What we then did, and it was the performance year 2020, which was then certified. So we put into our annual report a human capital section, including all the metrics that were required as part of the ISO standard. That got published around the beginning of 2021. We were certified not long after, so I think in March 2021, we were certified. And that was the first hook, so the first strand of credibility. At that point, I took the results of that, the achievement to our operating council, as it was called, and really started to, with the company COO, really started to build that credibility. And we started to build up our reporting. So that then triggered, some regular reports into divisional senior management committees. There was a comp committee called the DCC, which was a regular recipient, and that included a lot of the senior management. And it was building up nicely, but at risk of still being underused. But then what really facilitated the next shift was a new COO who came in the summer of 2022. And not long after that, or in relative terms, not long after that, he was followed by a new CFO. Now, although I'm not saying that the predecessors were not data driven, but these guys were severely or are severely data driven, and they were what I'm calling the accelerant in what happened next. I mean, they started absorbing the data, responding to the data, asking questions of their fellow board members. And of course, when board members were put under the under the pump and needing to know the data, they would then ensure that their teams were engaging with our data. So that was the accelerant. And from that point, we really grew on an exponential basis. So we took over or developed even more reporting, quarterly reviews with each division, reported on a weekly basis to the expo on the FTE, the outlook for the month, and some other KPIs such as gender diversity. Were reported regularly on a weekly basis, although they're refreshed monthly, but reported weekly, reported into the DCC, so that comp committee that I mentioned. On a monthly basis, that data was consumed by effectively most of the board members. And it really was, as I said, that accelerant. And that then triggered the need for investment, not just in my MI team, but also technology. I mean, initially it was just enablers, but more latterly technology. So things like Tableau, we're looking at Power BI, but there's a real commitment to ensuring that we are able to produce data in a visible way or a way that can be consumed by different stakeholders. At the same time, there's also a shift, or because of that transparency, a shift in how the organization was viewing employees. So pre-21, I would argue, maybe unfairly, but I would argue that employees were just seen as a number in a report, arguably the bottom line in a report, and mostly ignored unless I mean, obviously there would have been a cost impact, but mostly just only taken seriously as a cost play. Whereas with the CEO, the CFO, and the more transparency that was provided, the more sophisticated data, the employees started to be recognized. And I think our CEO and CFO are on record externally as using this phrase, but our employees are seen as appreciating assets and invested in. We did initiate what is now termed by our CEO, rightly or wrongly, a world-class early careers program, and invested heavily in our training programs to bring people along the journey. And I'd say, so that was Act 2, and then that leads us to the final act, which is Act 3, which is where we are right now. So, and communications went out only last month, so at the middle of January, from the board, explaining to the organization that now we do need to shift the paradigm. So as a result of wanting to invest in our people, or building on a foundation of investing in our people, but wanting to retain our talent, develop career paths, we will now look to prioritize internal employees when we come to filling roles. So there is no hiring freeze, but there's certainly the first instinct should be looking to replace people internally, looking at the gaps that are there in terms of skills or experience and how we plug those gaps. And if we do need to go externally, it should be on a very careful and considered basis. Employees will be empowered to shape their own career paths, and managers and HR need to support them in doing that. So, as I said, our aim is to retain talent, pay fairly, and make sure that our workforce is aligned to our strategy. What this means, and there's lots of work, so the program is really being kicked off, and you could argue that this is potentially what HR should have been doing for a number of years, but this is certainly a trigger point for us. So we'll look to build out org design. We have some bespoke software, or not bespoke software. We have some software that we can use for that to help crystallize demand to the roles that are needed to deliver what's needed to be delivered and the strategy, and then being able to articulate those roles in terms of skills, experience, and then looking at our internal talent and by the same token, describing our talent in using language of skills, experience, capabilities, attitude, whatever it may be. So, and then using ultimately, I mean, initially we'll probably start doing matching on a manual basis, but ultimately we intend to use AI to support that. So, yeah, three parts to the journey. I would say that the standard really, in worst case, enabled, but I think more strongly triggered the shift. The transparency really helped. It was definitely fueled by a new CEO and a new board coming in who really consumed the data in a positive way and supported what we were doing. And we now, get into the new part, the new chapter, where we look to focus internally and bring our employees along and hopefully give them rewarding careers. And the box at the top is more of a summary. I mean, I've talked to most of that, but as I said, tomorrow the emphasis is really on developing analytics to help unlock the potential in our employees, and we do want a culture to develop a culture that does drive ultimately improvements in the bottom line, so driving growth, innovation, and resilience, which are required. And as a footnote, excuse the ugly reporting. This was a snapshot of the first report. This was something I took to the OpCo after we'd been certified as being ISO compliant after the data was in the annual report. And all the stuff on the left is important, but if I focus on the productivity measures on the right-hand side, although I can't disclose the latest numbers because we haven't published our annual report just yet, I think that's a couple of months away. I can say that our training spend has gone up near enough threefold. The cost of workforce has gone up, but those are deliberate strategic choices, investment in our workforce in the right areas. But our human capital ROI and our EBIT per employee have both improved markedly, and those will be transparent when the results come out in a couple of months. So yeah, I mean that's it. If I was to leave you with three messages, I'd just say use the standards. They really do help. Try and get that senior sponsorship, and then just persevere. Progress or achievement. I think someone wise once said to me, progress or achievement comes from being disciplined and doing the simple things again and again, and that's really the approach that we've taken. We've continually reported, been consistent with doing that, particularly in our weekly report, and then that's the one. Or it could be weekly, monthly, or more ad hoc basis. But those are the reports that have really captured the imagination and led to a significant shift in how we view our workforce. So this really does help, and I hope that helps you. But open to any questions.
Indeed, a very powerful story, how you've been able to leverage, the potential of the data. Any question by anyone? Okay, I have a quick question for you. In the chat box, John talked about the challenges, and this is true that the data, the trustworthy data, the credible data is a challenge. And I'm assuming you also would have encountered this issue. So can you let us know the success tips, how you've been able to overcome? Because consistency in the data requires a thorough understanding of definition and a uniform understanding across the organization. So any thoughts you may like to share?
Yeah, I mean it's a great question. It's a very valid point, and as I said in the what I'd loosely call the pre-2021 era, so the first act, there was lots of mistrust of the HR data. And there were lots. I mean, I personally probably had lots of uh, healthy discussions or rows around the data. Um, and yes, we had to work as best we can collaboratively with different divisions in the data, so the COOs in those different divisions, to align on definitions, agree the definitions to make, or at least provide transparency on what the definitions were. But what I would say is the biggest um, achievement, or the way that the mechanism that we used to move it forward, was just by being persistent and consistent in reporting the data. And we made it very clear, particularly when we got, I mean, once we got the hook and we were reporting regularly, particularly and in the annual report. I mean, data cannot be wrong in the annual report. If we're reporting there, we made it very clear that if the data was wrong, then it was their data. We're using the golden sources. If they're saying the data's wrong and they need to be corrected, it's on them to correct it. So it's almost by being clear on what the golden sources are, being reporting on those, and report mistakes. I mean, obviously not in the annual report, but report mistakes in your weekly report, in the monthly report, report mistakes. People will jump on them and they'll say, well, how do we correct that? Well, soon enough, people will be forced to correct the data in those golden sources. So yeah, be clear on definitions, be clear on the golden sources, but then be persistent in reporting from them, because highlighting the mistakes or data quality issues is just a step in the journey.
Wonderful. So thank you, John, for sharing the wonderful story. And we look forward to stay connected and look into the possibility of the future engagement. With this, we'd like to move to the next speaker. And the next one is Dr. Kyung-Soo Shin, our active partner in the ISO TC 260. And also, I think he got certification through Japan while we were in partnership with Japan. And Dr. Shin is playing a wonderful role. I know he will be encountering the similar challenges, and we want to understand what's happening in the South Korea. Over to you, Shin.
Yes, thank you. Just hang on, please. I share my presentation file to everyone. Okay, let me see. Thank you, everyone. With my sincere appreciation to all of you for listening to the current situation of ISO 304 in South Korea. I would like to conclude my speech today. I'm very happy to be able to talk about Korean situation regarding ISO 304. There are three main topics to announce today. The first, journey of introducing ISO 304 in South Korea. I briefly outline how ISO 304 was first introduced to the Korean market, including the initial awareness challenges, early adoption effort, and how interest in human capital disclosure has gradually evolved. The second, certification experience of KB Financial Group, the Korea's first only ISO 304 certified organization. I share practical insight from KB Financial Group certification journey, focusing on why they decide to pursue ISO 304, what the certification process revealed internally, and how it has influenced HR governance discussion. The third, status of ISO 304 for professional certification and voice from practitioners. I present the current status of ISO 304 for professional certification in Korea, along with feedback and reflection from certified practitioners and course participants, highlighting how the standard is being understood and applied at the individual expert level. Firstly, when it comes to ISO 3414 itself, ISO 3414 was first introduced in Korea in December 2022. After I attended the TC 260 general meeting held in Berlin, Germany in 2022, I wrote a lot of articles related to HR global standard, and I sent it to number one economy newspaper in Korea and the other newspaper company and magazine, or including magazine. The related content was about the global trend and necessity of ISO 30414. Surprisingly, luckily, several companies contact me after reading article and newspaper, and they expressed their interest. Second one is the situation of ISO 30414 certification. There are other company ask me what the ISO 30414 and what the human capital disclosure. I explaining, and I come and go to my customer and my client, including a big company and not only big company but small sized company. And finally, I got a company which wanted to take a certification, the name of KB Financial Group. They received ISO 304 certification May 2024, 2 years ago. Above companies KB Financial, the KB Financial Group, number one bank in South Korea. 2 years ago, maybe November 2024, he got a certification, and last year, 2025, they audit surveillance audit. They got surveillance audit last in November. Among the discussion at the time, the most impressive insight came from their response to the following two questions. During the surveillance auditing, I asked a lot of questions to my client, and I got a lot of response from the K Financial group. And among the lot of the question and Q&A, I choose the two questions, very impressive one. The first one, what changes have occurred in decision-making structure or process relate to the human capital after ISO 304 certification? They said, the most significant change before and after ISO 304 for certification was the shift toward more multidimensional decision making and stronger focus on productivity. The area where the perspective changed most noticeably was recruitment. The CHRO in the KB Financial said the most incredible thing was the recruitment area. They say in the past, hiring was often conducted out of inertia based on the reasons such as organization always need young blood. Every company say, organizations always need young blood, new employee, or for generational replacement. Although that was always not entirely absent. It typically focused to rely on whether there was a vacancy due to the retirement or simple headcount consideration. Since last year, when the importance of human capital began to be more seriously recognized, this perspective has changed. Hiring one employee is now viewed as an investment approaching Korean won 5 billion won, considering not only recruitment cost, but also development and eventual retirement. As a result, the group now reviews productivity by division, analyze workforce trends compared to competitor, and determine headcount based on future strategic directions, emphasizing capital efficiency from multiple angles. The question number 2, the cases where human capital data is being used to convert non-financial value into management performance or reporting. KB, they said an internal human capital data book called HR Magazine Indicators, which is reviewed annually by the group CEO, subsidiary CEO, subsidiary CHO, and HR directors. The indicators are actively used as key performance element for each company. In particular, HCROI is included as a performance evaluation metrics for each CEO. Other key indicators valued at the group level, such as the ratio of the female employees, are also reflected as qualitative evaluation criteria. The third, final one, the status of ISO 304 for professional certification. The third point is the current status of ISO 304 for spread in Korea. After this paper article was published, many companies showed interest and made inquiries about ISO 304. As a result, I decided to open an ISO 304 consultant course by helping by Shinsuke Osaka in Japan, and also Zahid. In 2023, 5 HR professionals became the first in Korea to enroll in the ISO 304 expert program. In 2024, total of 20 participants joined the course. And last year, 2025, but a little bit decreasing regrettably, 6 people completed the program and obtained the expert certification. I have prepared a short testimonial videos from one of the last year's participant, and I invite you to watch it. His language is Korean language, but however, the subtitle is English. The cover up. Hang on, please. Just a minute. Aha. Oh my God. This one, I prepared for testimonial videos, but some technical problem happened. I cannot show the video, testimonial video to my audience. I'm very sorry.
No
Okay.
problem. You can send us. You can send
Sincere
us.
appreciation to all of you for listening to the current situation of ISO 304 in Korea. I'd like to conclude my speech today. Thank you so much, very much.
Super.
That's all.
So, Shen, I truly compliment your determination, the resilience with which you are carrying forward 30414 in a very strategic way, and I wish you success. Thank you.
Thank you,
So,
Jahid.
with this, we move, to our next partner, Salome Ajivilani, very, I think, strong activist. Overall HR, and particularly now she's gaining momentum on the people analytics, particularly the 30414. I have the honor of being in Georgia twice, and thank you, Salome, for being a wonderful host. And looking forward to hear your thoughts on the subject. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And actually, I will start with the appreciation and the honor to be a partner with you, Zahid, and the HR Metrics, and collaborating in different events and generally working on this very important topic that's definitely defines the future of business. I have not prepared the presentation because when we speak about ISO standard and data-driven HR, and to showcase the different cases, I don't have yet. So, but we are working very hard on it. Therefore, I would more speak and emphasize about the current situation, general situation in Georgia. and why the importance of these standards increased gradually. But before speaking about that, I would love to give a glimpse of information about Georgia and how we came up to now, because it's very important to understand the style of business and generally the problematic where we're standing now. As Zahid mentioned, I'm Salome Erglani, founder of a consulting company, EVA, focusing on human capital development and strategic management. And we're active in Georgia and in region. And I'm honored, as I said, to represent HR Metrics and be a partner and certify both companies and individual experts with ISO standard. As I said, when we speak about Georgian business, we have to understand first the history of Georgia. There's a huge influence of Soviet Union, and therefore our business until now, to be honest, the old business, it is more centralized style, very hierarchical, very owner focused, and therefore. It was, and it is still now quite difficult in big and old organizations to change their mindset and to focus their mindset and to become the human-centric. On the other hand, it is also quite important to understand the size and scale. In Georgia, 90% of the companies are small and medium size, and when we compare this size with European Union standards, it's even macro level. Therefore, we have to understand that the whole human capital is surrounded in 5 to 20 people, where owners are CEOs, are the main C-suite, and therefore they make the main decisions. They think strategically, and they are in both in strategic and operative level very actively. And the third very important part when it comes to the gap of strategic HR management and data-centric approach, it is the gap in education. Until now, like if we don't take in account like last 5 or 6 years, the HR personnel were not coming from the university directly as a subject, but they were former lawyers, accountants, psychologists, and so on. Therefore, the knowledge of conducting strategic management that is based on business administration, knowing finances and knowing analytics was not there. The situation is definitely better now because we in the universities, we have the programs of HR management, strategic HR, and therefore new generation are coming directly from this field, which makes a quite significant difference while speaking about HR strategic management. And the last very important part is I have already mentioned it, but once again to emphasize this very founder centric organization. The whole organization is kind of working on the demand of founder, and therefore, it is quite difficult to become a strong voice when it comes to the other directions and other needs. But it should be also emphasized that gradually the situation is changing because many companies expand, that they have new partners from abroad. They expanded their product or services in European Union or other developed countries, and many young generation who studied abroad, when they returned and founded the organization, they definitely started to do the business with those values that they saw in these developed countries, and therefore we gradually move to these international standards, and we can see now in new organizations or old organizations that the approach like shifts the focus to the human-centric approach. Therefore, there is a hope, definitely, and we see the increased demand on HR analytics, and recently the HR Professionals Association published the survey regarding the company's needs, and The first one was HR analytics, because companies definitely understand how it is important to make the evidence-based decisions, which definitely push the HRs to go beyond administrative tasks and increase their position and enter that strategic room and sit together with the C-suite and see how business operates and use the human capital for reaching the business objectives. And therefore, the interest toward ISO standard increased quite in this year as well, and that gave us the possibility to create the programs together with Zahid, where we from March start to train the HR professionals regarding the ISO standard, and with Zahid's support certify them so they can become the international auditors, international consultants, and most importantly implement the standards in their organization. For now, we have 3 certified HR professionals. 2 out of them will conduct these trainings together with Zahid, which means that we hope that slowly the amount of certified experts will increase, and therefore this direction will be in focus and demanded by organization. At the end, just based on the feeling and working with the organization, we see that the focus is shifted to evidence-based decision making, to human capital and human-centric approach, and to the transformational leadership, to be honest, because the situation is shifting and changing in Georgia very fast, and the companies has to be ready for these changes, and they cannot if they don't understand their humans and people in their organization. So I believe the ISO standard will only be a huge support in this regard, and therefore supporting them to get as much information as possible and acquire the knowledge is quite important. And here, once again, the huge thanks to our partners who support us, he did with Zahid, to conduct this work in Georgia. Thank you very much.
So thank you so much. Wonderfully good. Keep doing, keep inspiring. What I witnessed while I was there, you're strongly, you're strongly aligned yourself with the International Chamber of Commerce, which is playing a very pivotal role from the business perspective, the HR professional associations, the leading universities. I think these are the key stakeholders. And I think we have to be passionate with the change process that takes some time. And thanks for your leading the role in Georgia. A great pulse about your industry. We would like to have further thoughts later on by Mariam, who has been recommended by yourself, as she has the experience of using some of the metrics. So I'll come back to her later on. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you once again.
Great. So we now move to our next speaker. Again, our luminary, our alumni, Joan Palau Arau. Joan, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Basically from Philippines, but driving the change on the people analytics, ISO 30414 within the GCC while being positioned in the Qatar. So over to you, John. Thank you.
Thank you, Zahid. Am I audible?
Very well.
Okay, and you could see my slides, right? I cannot hear anyone. Cannot hear you.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you for this opportunity. So my topic is about the workforce sustainability and aviation, and linking the ISO 30414 base framework in the Middle East. About me, currently pursuing my doctorate in sustainability with a major on aviation workforce sustainability. And that's the reason why my topic is about aviation workforce sustainability, because I am currently in talks with different civil aviation and coming up with a workforce sustainability model linking ISO 30414 into the civil aviation global network. So I'm an ISO 30414 for external lead auditor, Philippine representative for the ISO Technical Committee 260. I spearheaded the implementation of ISO 30414 for the Philippines and also in the Middle East way back 2020. And I also trained more than 100 HR professionals in the Philippines and in the Middle East on the ISO 30414 framework. Scale of the aviation industry. Why aviation? More than that, it's my passion. There's 100,000 flights every day, 4.5 billion passengers annually, 10 to 11 million aviation professionals, and 70 to 80% of safety events involves human and organizational factors. This is why the workforce sustainability framework that I'm introducing with the civil aviation industries is very important. And also by 2040, no, more than 600,000 new aviation professionals needed. And these sources came from IATA and ICAO, the regulatory body of the aviation, International Civil Aviation Organization. In the Middle East, you would see here that majority of the international traffic dominates 85% in the Middle East. And there is a massive growth expansion happening right now in the Middle East. And as far as airline operation is concerned, Emirates ordered 73 new aircraft, Qatar Airways 210, Etihad 32, Saudi Arabian 191, and Riyadh Air ordered around 20 to 50 Airbus. Again, this is from Airbus and Boeing order books and IATA. So as more aircraft being purchased, more people and human capital will have to be monitored and managed. And the best way to manage that is through the ISO 30414. Workforce implications, there will be over the next 10 to 15 years, 10,000 additional pilots, engineers are needed, and more expats will be hired in the Middle East. So now that we have seen the immense growth of Middle East aviation, let's see how the aviation industry fits in to the sustainable development goal as an enabler. You could see here that aviation industry fits in. It cut across to 6 UN Sustainable Development Goals. SDG 8, 10, 17, 9, 10, and 12. So that's the reason why aviation is a becomes enabler of the sustainable development. Like to share also the organization which is under also United Nations, the ICAO, International, or others pronounce it as ICAO, International Civil Aviation Organization. What you could see here are the ICAO annexes or mandates. So these are the 19 mandates that is being prescribed by the civil aviation by the International Civil Aviation Organization into different countries, including Middle East. So you could see here 4: capacity development, which focuses on strengthening the workforce, and not only the airline operation, but also the airports. You could see here also the skills, qualification, and proficiency mandate, and these are the corresponding annexes. Human performance, which focuses on the well-being, okay, the fatigue, managing the fatigue, and then the safety oversight, continuous monitoring audit programs. And then lastly is the safety oversight. So now, these are the ICAO annexes. And based on this ICAO mandates, I did a synthesis which aligned closely to
HR leaders or HR executives, helping them to make an informed decision. So the capacity building, I call it capacity. So these are themes that I took from the existing ICAO mandates. ICAO does not call it capacity, they call it capacity development, but I extracted some themes out of the ICAO mandates. Skills, qualification, proficiency, I call it capabilities. Human performance, I call it care. And then the safety oversight is the compliance and assurance. ICAO called it safety oversight, continuous monitoring and audit programs. So the theme that emerged from this ICAO mandates is compliance and assurance. So these are the four themes that I managed to create and develop. And these four themes becomes now the 4C of aviation workforce sustainability. So I did a practical synthesis. So the capacity is all about long-term workforce planning, capacity building, and ICAO explicitly frames fatigue, as safety risk. The capabilities, which ICAO called skills qualification, it focuses on creating the new generation of aviation professionals. And the care, ICAO calls it human performance. I call it care. Okay, so that it will be easy to remember. And then compliance and assurance, ICAO called it safety oversight. So these are the 4C, which is now being proposed as the aviation workforce model. So it's easy to understand, it's human-centric and easy to implement. Again, it's not only limited to aviation. This could also be applicable to different organizations, regardless whether you're in aviation, utilities, manufacturing, oil and gas. The 4C workforce model applies across different organizations. But for the purpose of this presentation, and my focus is on the aviation, I call it 4C workforce model. Now, what I did is I linked the 4C workforce model with the ISO-based framework. So I came up with a formula on the aviation workforce sustainability. So the 4C aviation workforce model, which I presented a while ago, plus the ISO 30414 framework, which is the 2025 version, will now become the aviation workforce sustainability framework. So you could see now here the mapping that I did for each framework. Under capacity, these are the human capital core areas, okay, aligned with the ISO 30414 metrics. So there are 4. Under capabilities, there are 2. Human capital core areas, skills, capabilities, of course, obviously, mobility, succession planning. Under care, the human capital core area 7, health, safety, and well-being. And then under compliance and assurance, the 2 remaining human capital core area, leadership, culture, engagement, compliance, and ethics. 4, human capital core area number 10, diversity and the cost. So all of this now becomes the aviation workforce sustainability. So it's integrating the ISO 30414 in the existing ICAO mandate. And within the ICAO mandates, metrics are needed. Okay, and ICAO encourages operators to come up with metrics that will support different safety performance index and safety performance targets. All right, so now talking about sustainability, there are a lot of definitions on what is sustainability. The well-known, solid definition and globally accepted definition of sustainability, which UN, UNESCO, and other international organizations are using, is this one from 1987 Brundtland report. So it's meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So this is a solid definition backed by research because it doesn't only pertain to environment. It is all about development, continuous development. And under sustainability, there are two types of thinking. Okay, any sustainability initiatives, these two types of thinking will always emerge: the future thinking and the systems thinking. So any sustainability initiatives, may it be ESG or ISSB or ESRS, future thinking will always be there, and systems thinking. The interesting part here is that this both thinking is under the umbrella of ISO 30414. There are metrics, succession planning, which talks about future thinking, systems thinking. All the metrics there and KPIs is all about systems, human capital analytics. Now, with this definition of sustainability, we've come up with the operational definition of aviation workforce sustainability. So the operational definition of the workforce sustainability is organization's ability to continuously ensure workforce that is, I embedded the 4C, if you remember in the previous slide. Sufficient in capacity, that's the capacity. The C2, competent and future ready, which is the capabilities. Safe and well to perform reliably because of the fatigueness of the pilots and cabin crew. That's C3, which is the care. And the C4, which is the compliance and assurance, and ethically governed and compliant, so it can meet today's operational and safety needs without compromising its ability to meet future demands. So this is the working operational definition of aviation workforce sustainability, and it's on the process of being discussed with different civil aviation globally authorities. So again, from the two types of thinking, from the main definition of sustainability, I have added the metrics, the ISO 30414. If you add from the two types of thinking, the ISO 30414, then it becomes the aviation workforce sustainability. These are the national human capital mandates, workforce sustainability in the Middle East. You could see here on the left side, Saudi Arabia has their own Vision 2030. And I pulled out the mandate that is focusing on human capital and also the aviation workforce implication. United Arab Emirates, they have the UAE 2031 vision, also focusing on the human capital, and Qatar National Vision, focusing on the human capital. And on the fourth column, you would see here the aviation workforce implication and how the 4C aviation workforce sustainability framework fits in to the national agenda of the countries in the Middle East. And it will not only support the human capital vision of each of these countries, but it also supports the aviation's ESG and sustainability reporting. Let me share with you some of the organizations in the Middle East that got certified already, and also in the Philippines, Abu Dhabi Custom, Dubai Custom, in Saudi Arabia, the third strongest telecom brand in the world, STC, Saudi Telecom Company, a cooperative healthcare insurance, already got certified with ISO 30414, Council of Health Insurance. In Kuwait, Bursa Kuwait is the operator of Kuwait Stock Exchange, got certified with ISO 30414. And in the Philippines, MDC, Makati Development Corporation, a construction company, which I helped and they managed to get certification with the ISO 30414 when I was back in the Philippines a few years ago. So, in conclusion, in Middle East aviation, work for sustainability isn't just an HR thing. It's an operational continuity and safety assurance. And ISO 30414 gives us the common language. No? The four C's, capacity, capabilities, care, and compliance, will turn into decisions, dashboards, and action supporting the International Civil Aviation Organization mandate and governance. So I'll stop here. Thank you. And if there's any question, I'll answer it. Back to you, Zaid.
Super. Any questions, comments? I really like the way you have mapped the ISO 30414 components with the ICAO model. It's very well aligned, I think, in all aspects. Any question by in the comments? Okay, so in the interest of the time, I think, John, you'd like to move to the next speaker. Looking forward to more engagement. Keep shining. You always inspire us with your new accomplishments and hoping for more success. Wishing you more breakthrough. Okay, I think the beauty of having this online conversation is that we can take the frequent flights from one part of the world to another without much distraction. So we are coming back to Georgia and looking forward to hear the insight by Mariam. Mariam is the HRD manager, one of the transport and logistics organization in Georgia. And she was recommended by a partner, Salome, and she has a hands-on experience in using some of the metrics. We look forward to hear how she feels about it. Over to you, Mariam.
Okay, thank you. Hope you hear me. This is Mariami. Thanks for having me. First of all, really nice and pleasure for me to meet you all. So I'm gonna share the presentation about HR metrics. So I hope you see it. Yep. I'm Mariami. I'm the HR development manager of Gebru Device. That's the international transport and logistics company. So I'm gonna today talk about HR metrics, but not really from the theoretical perspective. But I wanted to share more like the organizational experience, what we implemented, what worked, and the lessons learned along the way. So there are some of the topics I'll cover today. First of all, when HR metrics became really critical at our organization, and what HR dimensions we firstly concentrated on, also some practical implementation and insights, and also what didn't work, and organizational impact for sure, and lessons we learned. So what pushed us towards the implementation of HR metrics? That was the realization that we had the pretty much perfectly defined HR strategy and relevant SOPs, but we lacked of something that would make this HR strategy actually feasible. So we lacked of engine, let's say. So we decided to just concentrate on the issues we had at that time. And there are some of the, key factors that pushed us toward structured HR metrics approach. So the first of all, as I've already pointed out, there was that we wanted to make HR strategy actually feasible. We didn't want it to be just on the paper, but something that would be working in practice. Also, we really needed to move intuition to the evidence-based decision-making as well as organization grew. We wanted HR decision to make more data-driven rather than based on only assumptions and some, perceptions. And we wanted to link people practices to business outcomes. We wanted to measure like people experiences, then actually connect experiences into the numbers and outcomes. And also one of the drivers was the leadership accountability and trust, as like metrics really increase transparency and allow leadership development framework to become more dependent on numbers and practices rather than some perceptions. And finally, we wanted the sustainable organizational growth. We wanted our processes to be measured and to have the more systematic approach regarding risk detection, and also something that would have the long-term value. So the first dimension of HR, actually, we implemented HR metrics, was recruitment and selection. So firstly, we decided to actually implement all the metrics that might be available, but there was kind of mistake back then because as it turned out, there are some of the factors that an organization should take into account before just go ahead and start implementation of HR metrics. And we really hoped that all those metrics would work perfectly fine, but it didn't happen. It depended on just ATS we had back then, also some human factors and vacancy volume as well. So we decided to just concentrate on the given ones. And what actually implementation of HR metrics in recruitment and selection changed for us? First of all, they increased effectiveness of recruitment channels and sources, and gave us the opportunity to measure the financial efficiency, the whole process, and also demonstrated the organizational ability to retain, develop, and redeploy the talent, and helped us to just analyze the high level. It became the high level indicator of organization stability in general, and also helped us to reveal employee satisfaction and leadership effectiveness. And what was one of the important result was that it was the foundation of root cause analysis in recruitment and selection that made the process more systematic, I'd say. So beyond recruitment and selection, we decided to also implement HR metrics into leadership and organizational culture. So first of all, we needed some initial steps to actually analyze what kind of organizational culture we had. So we conducted a company-wide culture assessment survey to get the just feedback about our cultural strengths and weaknesses, and then go ahead and implement those like HR metrics like ENPS, retention, attrition rate, leadership trust, span of control, leadership development. So what they gave us was that, first of all, span of control, as you already know, is the formula-based approach that enabled us to somehow measure the managerial load, that led us to the some targeted structural adjustments into certain departments. Also, we redefined the 5 areas of leadership, and then decided to have this small questionnaire to just conduct this survey, and that enabled us to create the company-wide leadership development framework. And when it comes to leadership development, we created the just framework under which we mapped existing development programs and identified the gaps and created the just, systematic approach across the organization. So when it comes to organizational culture, like ENPS really helped us to see the insights of employees' sentiments towards the company. So that also gave us the opportunity to create the, feedback culture into the organization that helped us to unlock some kind of, in-depth kind of interviews with certain positions and understand their motivation, engagement, satisfaction, etc. and attrition retention rates really helped us to get the quarterly and annual insights about organizational ability to retain and develop talent. So the main actually insights out of this implementation process and main challenges, I'd say, was the first of all leadership skepticism and resistance. And also the metrics overloads with little insight, because we wanted each of every metrics to be implemented without actual reasoning. And also low survey participation, because employees tend to be kind of skeptic regarding the implementation process, and they already think that they are already so busy for that. And this whole process is pretty much time and resource consuming as well. So like some of the insights also was the really important to focus on meaningful metrics, to combine both quantitative and qualitative data, and to just have the both parties like leadership and employees readiness and involvement, and to decide that metrics are actually tools and not goals. That means that implementation is just the starting point, and we have the ongoing data processing process. And finally, like what this process really changed for us, it really improved recruitment and onboarding strategies. It really gave us opportunity to have the targeted leadership development frameworks, create the system of early risk identification when it comes to attrition and retention rates, and overall improved workforce planning. So that's pretty much it for now. Thanks for attention. And if you got any questions, free to ask.
Mariam, this is remarkable. I'm very thrilled to see this success story, the way you have unlocked and decoded the black box ISO 30414. And the only thing what I see is that going forward, there's a need for creating more awareness with regards to the lessons that you have learned in terms of the the key takeaways, these key challenges. So the remarkable, wonderfully good. Any question, comment by anyone? Super. So, Mariam, I would like to get in touch with Salome to see how, with your permission, we can, mm, expand, this learning in a way that it promotes a better understanding on all the fronts. So, with this, we move to our last speaker, uh, Jeff Higgins, a very strong partner indeed, a member of the ISO TC 260 right from the outset, a good person friend. He is in California, West Coast. You understand the time is not really convenient. It's midnight. So he has been courteous to send us a video. The unique aspect about this Jeff Hagan is that he not only played a pivotal role within the United States in promoting the transparency, working with the Securities and Exchange Commission, being part of the working group that was formed to propose certain, you can say disclosure requirements for the companies. He also been able to promote technology that basically helps the enablement or the usage of the ISO 30414 on the organization environment. So a short video he has sent us. We would like everyone to watch this video and then we conclude. If still there's any question, comment, we'll let you know. And I would request my colleague to play the video.
Management Institute. Please give me just a moment while I share my screen. I'd like to tell you how Lytics can help you support your journey with ISO 30414, quantification, qualification, and even certification. Please give me one moment. All right. Thank you so much for your time. I'm going to walk through these slides very quickly. I'm a former CFO and former CHRO. Have been a part of the ISO TC 260 task group, creating HR standards for more than 12 years. Really since 2011, and also are one of the architects of both ISO 30414 2018 and 2025. I'm also co-founded, I teach part-time at the University of Southern California in the United States, and also lead a software and consulting training company called Lytx, again, formerly HCMI. If you want to reach me, you can reach me at www.hcments.com. Also, jeff.higgins@lytx.com as well, our new brand name. Let me tell you what Lytx does. It's a software that takes data inputs from multiple systems, your HR system, your applicant tracking system, your enterprise resource planning system, such as a Workday or an SAP. It also takes employee learning data. It takes talent acquisition data, applicant tracking system data, even employee engagement data. It takes all these data from disparate HR, workforce-related systems, integrates it, standardizes it, and cleanses it, and brings it back to you as connected insights, and we match up benchmarks, can link it up to demonstrated ROI by dollarizing or assigning a value. You can pick your currency. I'm using US dollars for example here. And then also it comes with consulting and education support to help ensure that you really understand what you're getting. And lastly, I'm going to show you at the very end, there's an AI piece that can now automatically diagnose your workforce data. In addition to all the automated reporting, human capital reporting and disclosure that links to financial results like via ISO 30414 compliance, there's also now an AI that will give you automatic commentary and interpretation of your data. So this is really how we do what we do. We take data, again, from those disparate systems you see at the top on the graphic on the right. It goes into Lytx in what's called our data integration blueprint, and then out come the insights in a variety of standardized dashboards. We can also include a workforce plan. You get predictive and prescriptive analytics that are now AI-driven, which I'll show you in a moment. And of course, ISO SEC compliant human capital reporting. So let me tell you more about that. My colleagues will tell you all about the ISO standard, but let me just point out that there are actually a wide number of metrics in different dimensions as well as modules in Lytx that are available for you to use. If you look in the center section at the bottom, ISO Human Capital Reporting, there's an ISO compliant reporting module. So it has all the metrics from the ISO standard, as well as hundreds more. In fact, we do up to 1,800 metrics. Not that you need that many metrics, but if they're the idea is they're there if you need them, and they can be included. So if a metric or a question comes up about a metric that may not be in the fantastic ISO 30414, which is a great standard for how to measure and report workforce, but it doesn't include everything, that metric is also available for you in another dashboard, or you can use it as a KPI, and that is all actually highly configurable based on a SaaS subscription, and the data can be provided. The data can be translated and provided to you in a format that you like, although everything is already pre-calculated to give you that automated reporting and usability for payback and insights, as well as human capital disclosure or certification if you wanted to get it on day one. So let me show you some samples just for the next 2 minutes of some of these pages. So this is the turnover module, and you can see circled in red are various of the metrics around critical reporting, new hire turnover rate, high performer turnover rate, cost of turnover, overall turnover rate, voluntary turnover rate, all of which are in the ISO 30414 standard. And then it will automatically color code for you. It can provide benchmarks. Even if you look in the upper right, comparisons to prior year, prior quarter, as well as an industry normative benchmark. And lastly, if you look down at the bottom, it'll actually give you some forecast of what it's predicting for the future based on your historical trending. Next, you have leadership, culture, and engagement. Now, I'm not going to go through all 11 of the human capital areas, just a few examples. This is one that's very difficult to measure. Just want to give you an example and show you that, in fact, the Lytx software can measure that. So it's using leadership trust from an engagement survey as part of the leadership component of culture, and then, of course, the overall engagement score to meet the culture requirement in the ISO standard. Also, skills, capabilities, and development. So this has training, succession rate, overall succession coverage and effectiveness, average cost per training, average training hours per employee, and much, much more. All of these are drillable and sliceable. If you look on the far right, you see there's filters. So you can actually drill this down into individual country, business unit, division, location. And so you can get the metrics reported in subgroups as well as the overall aggregate for the total enterprise, which is what you would be disclosing and probably getting certification on. Again, compliance, ethics, and workforce relations. This has an area for you to drill down, but it's nice to just have it all visually there for you if you would like it. And then my personal favorite, workforce productivity, which has revenue, EBITDA, profit. Now, the actual metrics are total cost of workforce or total workforce cost, which you see it in one of the bars on the bottom, revenue per FTE, profit per FTE. Human capital ROI is also one of those metrics. So one of the great things, and then labor cost or total workforce cost per employee are all part of the ISO standard. And there are some additional metrics, as you can see a few of them here, that are also included. And all of these can be forecast, predicted, and benchmarked. Lastly, I promised to share with you, so this is an AI-driven diagnosis or called workforce strategy map. So you select a few basic inputs. If the AI has access to all the data and we've run it through our data integration blueprint, it will actually select key performance indicator metrics, give you an overall metric health score, and it will give you a diagnosis with some of the good, some of the not so good, and then it will give you some focus areas with small charts that you can click on to interact with. It also connects to a new piece, not shown here, but happy to show you in a separate demo, called prescriptive analytics. So it will forecast the future and tell you what the future would look like for you based on a scenario you set up with the AI. So you tell the AI which are your most important priorities for improvement. Is it culture and engagement? Is it turnover retention? Is it workforce productivity and financials? Is it talent management? So a set of areas. You tell it what's most important, and it will actually make adjustments, give you a new future prediction in terms of a scenario, and write new commentary. So the great thing is not only do you have the automated metrics, you also have a commentary and insights that you can pull from. So you really don't have to spend the time to understand this. You can spend more interpreting and actioning. What do we want to do from it? Lastly, the Lytics software directly supports human capital reporting and linking human capital metrics to business financial impact. So this is really what ISO 30414 is all about: metrics, quantification, reporting, and predictive analysis. And of course, as a former CFO, that's really what we do and all we do. If you want to get a hold of me, please reach out to lytics.com or jeff.higgins@lytics.com, and I'm happy to give you more. And you can also find our website, and I'm sure we'd be happy to set up a demo for you. With that, I'm going to stop sharing and stop recording, and I'm sure you'll get a lot of other great information about the ISO standard from my colleagues who are also on this webinar. Thank you so much for your time.
Wonderful. So with this, we come to the end of this webinar. I think a true mix of the human capability and the technology supported by the AI-led, the software that Jeff has introduced, and we are happy to facilitate you. As long as you have any requirement, let us know. We would like to connect you with the technology provider or an expert in any part of the world. This is a unique advantage that we have, that we are strongly integrated and coupled with all the experts, all the go-getters, the movers and shakers around the world. So thank you once again. I know it took a little extra time because the webinar was originally planned for 90 minutes, but in the interest of the conversation, the useful conversation, I didn't interrupt, and I truly value your participation. With this, we can conclude the webinar, and looking forward to have see you at some other such kind of dialogue. Thank you once again. All the best, and take care of yourself. Bye.
All right.